Responses engine 5, engine 3, engine 1, ladder 3, ladder 2, rescue 1. We've got full showing. Division 1, you're on location, box 23, reporting smoke show on 727.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to JobTlks podcast. We are on episode 2. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 1, which aired last week. You might notice that some things are different, and it is true. John's triceps are a little bit larger than they were last episode.
His sleeve is rolled up a quarter of an inch.
Yeah, he really has been hitting those at the gym.
This isn't even hard. This isn't even my good side.
Matt's chest has also grown by 0.25 inches. Takes measurements every morning. A little bit stronger, a little bit better than we were, a week ago. That's all we can ask for. On a serious note, not too much has changed, but we are excited to be back in the studio shooting episode number 2. Before we dive into the content, please continue to help us out by following us on @JobTlks, Facebook and Instagram. That's JobTlks. Also, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is also @JobTlks, and hit the notification button so you get alerted when we drop new episodes, which should be every Saturday. You can leave us comments on our social medias. You can leave us comments on our YouTube videos, and you can also go to our website and leave us feedback, some content ideas, hate mail, anything you want to send us, we will take it. Helps us keep the show user-driven. We direct all hate mail specifically to Matt because he
loves it.
I
don't take it personal at all.
When making hate mail, if you could please be as personal, descriptive, physically.
Actually, let's make this a contest to see who can send in the best piece of hate mail to Matt.
All right, here's the thing. If you can send in a piece of hate mail that's well written,
eloquent,
zero
grammatical errors are key.
Ooh, it's 2022. People don't know how to use grammar anymore.
Well, you can't in my experience sending hate mail, not that I have a lot. If you have a grammatical error, it really takes the edge off it.
It does. I agree.
It just makes you look amateur.
I agree.
You got to at least proofread your hate mail.
I agree.
Also, if it's short, Matt's response back is going to be easy.
Yeah.
He's just going to correct your grammatical error.
If it's poorly written, it's not worth his time to respond.
It's so easy to just be you forgot the apostrophe.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So send in that hate mail.
Send in the hate mail. If it's good, if it doesn't cross the boundaries, we will have Matt respond to it.
Yeah. Nothing's ever going to trump what my doctor said anyways. So, Jesus Christ.
All right. So, send Matt your hate mail, and maybe you'll get it read on one of our future podcasts and responded to. He'll have a comeback ready for you.
To be fair, I don't even check our social media, so I'm not going to read it.
As always, our usual disclaimers. We are not here to be the experts or pretend to be the experts. We are here to grow collectively, become better firefighters, and positively influence the fire service and the culture within the fire service. We're hoping to find those experts, so if we talk about a subject that you are passionate about, please reach out to us. Maybe we can have you on at some point to talk about it. We hope to facilitate this knowledge sharing through this platform and make the show better, the content better, and the fire service a little better in the meantime. All right, now that we got the intros and disclaimers out of the way, Barry is the host for this episode, so I'm going to pass it over to him. He developed it, made all the content.
All right.
Going to take us through it.
Get dialed in. All right, so today's episode, as we transition into kind of the evolution of JobTlks and building our brand and the ideas that kind of will take us through the show, we wanted to start with those really fundamental core topics and tasks, what builds a successful fire service career. So that's today's episode. Essentially, I made the title building the best job you ever had. Like before you can become the true subject matter expert, like what does it take to become like a in the door, walking in, a good student of the craft? So that's kind of how I envisioned this week's episode.
I think a chip on your shoulder.
Yes, definitely.
I walked in day one with a mustache.
See that? Yeah. So that
It's either
really set you up for success.
It sets you up for. It's a power move.
Yeah.
I did too. I grow mustaches really well. If you couldn't tell.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew this in I don't know
It's
maybe
very
10
dark.
minutes.
Yeah, considering your hair color, it's
Yeah.
very different. It's-
My first day
Yeah,
on
testosterone.
my
or
first day on the job,
something.
they posted pictures of me on like like the fighting Irish guy, and then like the guy who stands out and fights like this, and they had him in front of every urinal and all the special places in the firehouse that one would look to find my face.
So he
That's
had
awesome.
the strongest mustache in the academy. I remember them going down the line and being like, shave it, sucks, fucking weak. And they got to John, they were just like, carry on.
We have a guy on our job like that.
Yeah.
We'll call him Real
Bill
Fuso.
Fuso? Bill Fuso?
Bill Fuso.
Yeah.
He looks just like the WB Mason guy.
All right.
Yeah.
And he same thing, sported it through the academy, came with
Yeah.
a job.
Yeah.
It is healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
they
looks
put
like
they
a-
put me on top, like my head on top of that guy
Yeah.
and everything.
Bill Fuso looks like a guy that he's going to get into fisticuffs.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't challenge him because his mustache is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation, we wanted to do kind of this new topic, the fire service shout out. So what is the fire service shout out, you ask? It's essentially, quite simply, highlighting the individuals and organizations that make the fire service great. Whether that's a great call, whether that's training, whether that's a specific incident that they did really well that we think warrants kind of bringing up. So this week's shout out is actually to Monson Fire and the Western Mass Technical Rescue Team. So they had a very interesting incident recently, as I'm a big ropes geek. So I'm going to try and throw these up on the screen here. Nick, can you see that? So about 2 weeks ago, they have the old Monson Developmental Center, which is essentially a former state-run healthcare facility, and they have this huge like underground labyrinth essentially. So there was about it was like a 10,000 gallon culvert that no one actually knew was there. So this guy was up there exploring and fell approximately 35 feet into this culvert and was subsequently trapped. So there's from my understanding, there's about a foot of water at the base of the culvert. So he's down there for about 4 hours, I believe, before he actually realized, like, hey, I ain't getting out on my own. So I guess his dad came up with like a 10-foot ladder and realized it just wasn't happening.
I want to know who his cell phone provider is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can't get service.
Yeah.
Street
Yeah.
level.
You want to explain that photo a little detailed for the people who are listening?
Yeah, so as you can see, so this is kind of like the entrance to the culvert. So where he fell, you can see there's kind of a pipe that's protruding from the center of the picture there. So that was kind of an old pipe, and he was standing on that and then fell. You can't really see over the edge of the lip, but he fell 35 feet just into a cement floor with about a foot of water. So he ended up having some pretty significant like axial load injuries. He had a broken femur. I believe his tib fib was also broken, and he had exposure because he was there for about 4.5 hours.
And this guy sat there 4 hours, and the first person he called was his dad with some femur
who-
fractures.
Yeah. Who can he call to get you out of jam?
Did he have a mustache? Because he sounds tough.
Yeah, it sounds tough. Dad, so gonna need you to show up with the little giant ladder system. His dad showed up and was like, yeah, I ain't getting you out. So they had to call the fire department. And what I think was cool, so from start to finish, here I'll throw up some more pictures. You can kind of really see this was their best entrance point. So it was I'm a big ropes nerd, so it was kind of a below grade rescue confined space as well as high angle. So I thought that was pretty cool. So you can see out there, as we talked about some of these smaller jobs, they rely heavily on county-based rope teams, county-based rescue teams. So what I thought was really cool, from the time the chief of Monson got out there to the time that the Western Mass Tech Rescue Team was on site and starting to build their rigging system was 45 minutes. It's pretty
awesome.
fast.
That is fast.
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially not having a tech rescue team in house. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, and you can see, so here's their ultimate entry point, and you can see them building their rigging system here. So they have a pretty robust team, and it sounds like they have a fair amount of experience. But so they built their Arizona Vortex tripod. I'm not going to get into like the technical aspects, but essentially they built the rigging system. Were able to rappel down into the actual culvert and get him out. And he, from my understanding, the individual, other than the femur fracture and some of the axial load injuries, ended up being fine. So I thought that was cool. It's not a call you see every day. It kind of highlights some of the work that some of these smaller jobs are doing on the county-based teams, where they have a guy from this job, a guy from that job, and they come together and make shit happen. And they did a really good job. So I thought that was worth giving a shout out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good find.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So just again for the people who are listening, so the entrance that they found the best access there was basically a manhole.
Yep.
Maybe 24 inches wide. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So about say 24 inches wide. Looking at the photo, and they had to set up ropes and go send somebody down that, rig them up, and then haul both the rescuer and the victim up through that, which is pretty.
Yeah, and then they ended up, as you can see, this is pretty confined, so it doesn't really lend itself well to a Stokes unless you're operating in the vertical plane, which can be kind of difficult. So they ended up just sending down a basket with the rescuer, or a harness rather, with the rescuer and pulling him out.
That must have felt great on his femurs.
Yeah,
His hips.
yeah. So they actually have a doctor that's attached to the team that's actually rope qualified, that they can send down there to initiate care, get pain management on board, and
Really?
start the process.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So private EMS isn't going down the hall.
No.
I would if they let me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's not say they're not. Let's say they shouldn't.
Unless you push them.
Yeah.
Matt, I don't know if you could fit down that hole.
I
don't think the chest.
strategically
Just
I'm
don't
sure
flex.
the chest would not.
Don't flex.
I made sure that that's not my niche.
If you don't like confined space, you just lift until you can't fit in confined space.
I'd rather be the guy pulling up on the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd rather have you pulling up on the rope too. Get a little power behind
There's
it.
horsepower and there's Matt power.
Yeah. That's one Matt power.
Yeah. One Matt power to
One
pull
Matt.
that guy up.
Matt
essentially-
Matt is a 4-to-1 system.
10 to 1. Yeah, I was gonna say 10 to 1 mechanical advantage. Just Matt on the line. So so that's our shout out for this episode. We try and find, like I said, whether it's individuals, organizations doing the right thing, unique calls and cases where they did a really good job, or people shaping and influencing culture. That we obviously want to give it lend a voice and give an audience to that type of stuff, because that's what makes the job great and makes it a place that everybody wants to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you were involved in that call, feel free to reach out to us on our website or social
send Matt
media.
an email. Yeah,
Send Matt a hate mail.
Yeah.
And let us know what happened. We're curious, and maybe we can work it into talking about it in the future when we do some of the more technical stuff.
Or any department that had a similar,
Yeah, or if you-
any
yeah, exactly.
cool calls like that.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk about
Yeah,
it.
we obviously have an eye out for that stuff, but we can't see everything. So and not everything makes social media, and not everything makes the news or whatever. So if you know of a call, something like that, feel free to send it in, give some shout outs, continue that positivity.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess now we can kind of get into the meat and potatoes. So I guess now that we've talked about kind of the experts,
The meat and potatoes.
yeah, the meat and potatoes. Now we've talked about and kind of seen some of the true experts in their craft, right? Let's talk about what it takes to build a foundation to get there, right? Because you can't get to that high level overnight. But how do you lay the foundations for a successful fire service career to get to that level, right? So when I think about the podcast and I think the overall intent of why we're here, aside from highlighting like what it takes to build like a positive culture, positively influence organizations, and bring up people, I think of like, how do we welcome the next generation into the fire service and make it a place that people want to be, right? So how, if you have a new member like walking in the door, like what are those things that you're going to tell them? Like, hey, like in order to have a successful career here that's long, rewarding, engaging, in a place that you want to come to work every day, what are those core attributes that we want to pass on? And like when I was building the episode, I went around and I'll share some of them. I asked guys like, hey, if you could offer like one piece of advice to guys first day on the job for a successful career, like what would you tell them? I got some really good answers, which I will share. But how do you build that momentum to ensure that it's the best job you've ever had? So I want to share a video, and then I think that kind of like stimulates the conversation. We can dive into it from there. So this is a guy named Simon Sinek. I follow a lot of his. He's a motivational speaker and talks about building organizational performance. But I really liked his thoughts on performance versus trust, and I'll kind of get into why. But I'll throw this up there.
I've worked with the Navy SEALs, and I asked them, like, how do you pick like the guys that go on SEAL Team 6? right? Because they're the best, the best, the best, the best. And they drew a graph for me. And on one side, they wrote the word performance, and on the other side, they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, whatever, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust, of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust. It's a relative
Made me
scale,
feel a lot better about
over
being a
this
medium
person.
performer.
This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say, who's the asshole? And they will all point to the same person. Equally, if you go to any team and say, who do you trust more than anybody else? Who's always got your back? And when the chips are down, they will be there with you. They will also all point to the same person. It's the best gifted natural leader who's creating an environment for everybody else to succeed, and they may not be your most individual highest performer. But that person, you better keep them on your team.
So I thought that was a cool video, and it highlights a lot of like really core important points. Most importantly, made me feel better about being a medium to low performer of high trust. So that's good. But I thought it brings up some good points, right? So walking in the door, I think everyone has to understand, and like for the first few years of your career, you're not going to be the highest performer. Like, you're just not going to be there. You don't have the innate knowledge. You don't have the experience, right? You just don't. There's so much to do and learn that you're not going to be the highest performer. And I think that's important to accept that. Like, you can strive towards that, but what you can do is you can be an individual of high trust, which I think puts you in the position to eventually be an individual of high performance, high trust. So that's kind of like how I wanted to frame the conversation. Like, how, what do you guys feel is the most important thing as a new member walking in the door? And like, how do we shape that so as we build the best job we've ever had, like, how can we, bring these people up?
I was going to say, so one thing I always heard and have seen, because we just had a bunch of new guys come on, myself included, over the past couple of years. And, from some of the senior leadership, it's just shut up and listen, like, don't come in like a know-it-all. Don't be too comfortable too early. They don't want someone who's their fucking buddy. They want the guy who's just there to learn and obtain, retain the information and kind of get with the flow. Like, and it's all, everyone thinks, oh, it's the job stuff. It's like, it's like the little stuff that stands out the most. Like your character. Like, if you're coming in and doing your house chores, right away, stepping up and making sure that the senior guy who's earned his stripes and did his time, isn't doing those things while you got your feet up, essentially, where you're hiding in the back because you don't want to take the trash out. It's like, those things speak volumes about your character and your work ethic, and I think that's how you win guys over initially. If you don't do those things right off the rip, I think initially their impression of you is, fuck this guy, and then, or girl or whatever, and it just builds from there. And then, same thing on a call. You can translate that to a call. If you're only stepping up to do the things that you think are the fun parts, like, everybody wants to go into the fire, right? But then when it comes to roll hose, you're hiding somewhere. Yeah. Right. It's like, you're not going to win anybody over doing that shit. And they're going to be less likely to want to teach you and kind of welcome you in and you're not going to have that awesome experience on the fire service because, you just lost everybody. That's my perspective.
Yeah.
At least,
No.
I think that basically just what you're saying is character is more important than performance, and which is basically what he's saying, at least initially. Like, nobody wants you to be completely incompetent at your job, but building that trust is hugely important. And there's like different types of trust too. So there's like trust that if I put my money out, you know, I'm going to not have it taken by somebody, you know what I mean, in the firehouse. But there's also trust that like you're going to be honest about something you don't know. So if you have a call or you have a scenario that comes up, and we were kind of talking about this in the truck on the way here, is like some of the worst traits are when you ask somebody, hey, do you know this, or like, can you help with this, do you know anything about this, and they say yes, or even worse, like in the middle of an incident, whether it's a medical or a fire, you're like, hey, can you take care of this? And instead of being like, hey, I'm not 100% on that, can you like give me a little guidance, they say yes, and then they mess it up, and then there's a poor outcome, whether it be for a patient or a victim or for the structure or whatever the case is. Like that immediately tears down your trust. And like we were talking about, John, like you said in the incident you were kind of describing, is you're never going to ask again from that person for that thing, because the trust is gone.
Yeah.
You know,
there's like this really kind of cliche like list of things, and I've seen it pop up on social media a whole bunch, and it's like things that you need like zero skill for.
Yeah.
And it's like showing up on time, right? That's the first thing. What time do you get to work? I get to work at like 7 to 7:15. We don't have to be there till 7:45. I get to work early because it's really actually convenient for me. I get up and I have a flow of the time and things that I do. So, but I like to get to work early because it gives me time to get in, you know, get the locker open, get the first pot of coffee going if the group force doesn't have one, which they always do. And then, you know, then I can get down and it's like I can get all my, you know, truck checks done, or at least some of them done before roll call. And, you know, that's just a really easy thing to do, is to show up to work early. If you show up on time, you're late. So there's like a whole list of these things, and I don't remember all of them, right? But it's just like, it basically boils down to exactly what you're saying, just working hard. So you can just, you know, outwork and outperform. You know, it's not, there are like these gifted athletes that just show up, and no matter what, they're going to the league, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But there are those guys that didn't even start in high school that end up going to college.
Right.
And then they end up starting, you know, whatever. They end up starting in the league, and it's like, how the hell did you get there? They're just diligent. They just worked hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that when it comes down to it, that's the biggest thing is your work ethic. And yeah, it's funny. I'd actually be interested to hear some more of the pieces of advice that you got and continue that conversation, because I've gotten some along the way too that I bet you are very similar to what you have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And one of the things that I always remember about you, Matt, is that you always wash the truck. And that's a point of personal pride, but that speaks to, without saying a word, says a lot about, you know what I mean?
Well, here at Woburn, a clean truck is a happy truck.
Yeah.
well, you can.
I mean, not everyone shares my thoughts on that, but it's a little bit of a personal pride thing.
Absolutely.
I like to have a presentable appearance, whether it be on the ambulance or on the engine or the ladder, whatever. But you know, even like there's an ongoing joke, like at my work where, you know, the stretcher, I'm OCD about making the stretcher. Like I like it to be straps a certain way and the sheet tucked and whatever. And you know, and I'm the only fucking guy that really cares that much. But that's me, right? Like
it's just awesome.
You know, image. You get critiqued on your image. You know, that's the first thing people see, right?
Yeah.
So when you're rolling up on a scene, whatever it may be, they're looking at who's walking up. So if you look like you're squared away and your shit's together, they're gonna have confidence in you versus the guy whose fucking boots are undone, his shirt's untucked. You know, he's got fucking stains on his shirt. Or the stretcher looks like it was just slapped together.
Yeah,
it's like,
professionalism.
Yeah,
summed up.
Absolutely.
The same way that you would judge any store or restaurant or whatever that you walked into, we're a customer service based organization. At the end of the day, we're there to take care of the people who call for our help, and the first step in that is looking professional.
And I think
my
my thing stems from actually having come from private EMS, where unfortunately you work with so many fucking slobs who don't care and their presentation is shit, and you know, you're showing up to somebody's house where, you know, they're relying on you to provide medical care to somebody, and you look like terrible. You know, it's like, okay,
Right.
like I wouldn't want, you know, some of the people you see in that line of work, it's like, I would tell you to get out of my house right now.
I've had this conversation with my wife multiple times that, you know, as we, you know, have a kid on the way, if we ever had to call halfway there, if we ever had to call 911 for whatever reason, you know, a kid broke his arm in the backyard, whatever, if they showed up,
You wouldn't call 911 for that.
I probably wouldn't. But if it was something serious, right, and they showed up looking like shit, get the fuck out of my house. I'll drive myself. Because how can, similar to what he said, like, and I think this spans into a larger conversation, you know, performance versus trust. Like, how as a young member can we build a successful career if you can't take the time to have the pride to do the small things right? Like, if you don't zip up the side of your boots or make sure that your shirt's tucked in, how do I know that you inspected your bags? How do I know that you did anything? How do I know that you checked the truck? Like, you don't even care enough to tuck your shirt in.
Right.
Look like a halfway decent human being. Like, so it's conveying that confidence, and I think that's what it ultimately gets down to is like you have to doing the little things right doesn't require a lot. It just requires like basic discipline, show up on time, do the due diligence, check your truck.
Right.
And if people trust you with the small things, they see you washing the truck, they see you checking bags, they're going to trust the fact that you can do the big things right. But if you just walk in and put your feet up on the couch first thing in the morning, don't bother to check your truck, don't bother to run the pump, ladder, whatever it is, check your medic bag, check your narcs. Like,
Right.
It's going to be 2:30 in the morning and you haven't like checked your PD bag in like 9 months. And now there's like a mom looking at you for like a PD, like pulse ox probe. And like, it doesn't matter like that it might be relatively insignificant. Like to them, it's like you are not competent enough to even know where your basic stuff is.
Right.
So
I think that's another part of it, and I know I mentioned it in the last episode, is the public has an innate trust of us too. So not just your coworkers, but the public entrusts us with a lot. They entrust us to go into their houses, go into their like private rooms, their bedrooms, with their children. Like, who else? And I feel like I don't know if it was us talking about it or if there was another podcast I was listening to, but like, where else in society does somebody just hand you their child? You know what I mean? And just be like, hey, help me. Like
Chuck E. Cheese.
Like, yeah, well, probably. But like there's a humongous amount of trust from the public for us. So it starts with, public image that builds that trust. Doing the right thing, not ending up on the front page of a newspaper, builds that trust. When you're in people's houses, not rummaging through their things or doing unnecessary damage at a fire, builds that trust. And then kind of bringing it back to the podcast is they trust us to be able to get there and do our job. So talking about these things, tactics, culture, whatever it is, making sure that we're able to perform when we get there. So there's trust that I feel like just has like so many layers to it. And I also think like talking about the performance side is you might not be able to be a high performer in fireground tactics day one or year one or whatever it is, but you can be a high performer in, what are you saying, station duties and being diligent about training. Like performing a training doesn't necessarily mean doing it right. It means doing it, like caring about it and trying to get it right and asking the questions when you don't know the answers.
Yeah.
And doing your house chores, checking your bags. We also had a conversation, Barry, recently about this wasn't even the fire service, your military side of the job, where you have a person who's a medic and is leaving medications out in freezing cold.
Yeah, it was 35 degrees.
35 degrees, and like, that what did that immediately do to you? Like, this medic has no. If somebody gets shot here, yeah. I can't really trust that this guy knows what he's doing if he's leaving sensitive stuff out and like to freeze.
Getting all amped up thinking about it.
Barry told me that Sergeant Barry came out for a minute, which I've never seen, and I want to one day.
I have a dark side. I do. Yeah, no. So, and that's one of the things, and it translates well, from the Army to here. But I walked around the corner and we were running a range, and in the civil affairs community within the Army, like there's not a lot of medics, so there's like maybe 5 or 6 of us in a battalion of 200 or 300 people, and I walked around the base of the range tower, and it was like 32 degrees outside with the wind chill, and this guy had all his bags outside when up in the range tower it's 70 degrees climate controlled. So I went around and I was like, hey man, I wasn't the medic that day. I was like, hey man, like, do you have fluids in your bag? He's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And I'm like, it's 32 degrees outside. I was like, you might want to put your stuff upstairs. And he was like, oh, well. And this is where, like, I was triggered. He's like, well, I don't really anticipate on using fluids today. So I'm like, really?
Wow.
We're at a live fire machine gun range, and that never crossed your mind as a potential, that you might have to. I don't
Well,
anticipate.
I certainly hope not, because it's fucking slush.
Yeah,
Right.
But I'm like, dude, are you serious? And that's the thing that bothers me is, like, whether it's the fire service or the military, I was like, people just have an innate trust that you're doing the right thing, and there's really no one there to check you and verify that you're doing the right thing, and you're betraying that trust. And that's where I think, like, it doesn't take any talent, like you said, like it takes time to get experience, and like there's some things that you have to physically do the job to learn, but it doesn't take any experience to be the subject matter expert on your pump or your piece, or like someone can ask you for like the most obscure item at 2 a.m, be like, Matt, can you grab me this? No problem, got it. But if now you go out there and you're fumbling around, like, look, you know what I mean? That doesn't take any talent.
I think a big part of that comes from the fact that, like, nobody wants to be on that job where somebody's breathing down your neck constantly to make sure that you're doing all that shit. They kind of trust in you to kind of police yourselves and be like, hey, like,
micromanaging.
Do you need someone, like, nobody wants that guy over your shoulder, like, doing that. Like, hey, you didn't fucking, it's like they kind of expect you to do the basics, and with that, you can kind of get a little complacent sometimes.
Yeah,
but
everybody does.
I think complacency happens everywhere. Just to kind of bring it to personal, is I had a call recently, and I was really upset about it. I had a long talk with my lieutenant about it, and I was as upset at myself as I was with everybody on the call. But we had a pediatric who was having some trouble breathing, and the medication he needed was in a packet that was a new color, and I hadn't looked in that bag for a while, so I didn't see it initially, and then everybody that was on the call was as confused as I was. So what happened is we ended up, the kid was fine. It was a croup case, so it wasn't anything life-threatening. But I was really angry afterwards, because I was like, we have typical 3 a.m, coming, waking up from sleep. We have a kid that's scared and sick that we can help really quickly, and because I hadn't and we hadn't, like, paid attention to that recently, we delayed that care and that, like, sick kid, and that, like, really bothered me. And but that's what it goes back to, is another part of trust, is just trying to kick that complacency. And it happens to everybody, but if you recognize that it happens, then you can do something about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things at the end of the day is everyone's, especially as a new member, like, you have to, like, just be okay with the fact that you're going to make plenty of mistakes, and that's fine. And, like, people are going to understand that at least they should understand you're going to make mistakes, but it's your attitude. Like, do you take ownership of the fact that you made a mistake and try and correct it? Like, that's where people are going to build that trust in you as an individual. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone here is going to make mistakes, and we're going to make mistakes throughout our career. But are you willing to take ownership of it and identify it, and then chart a path towards a solution? And then can you be humble enough to, like Will just did, like, share that with the group, so other people don't make the same mistake as you. So I'll share some of the comments I got. See, there's some really good ones. So this is from a ladder company lieutenant. He said, he gave me 2 things, and I thought both were very good. He said, be the first to volunteer for an activity during a training exercise and do as many reps as you can. Make sure that it's them that tell you to stop. It shows you're serious about perfecting your craft and eager to learn. And 2, he said, if someone wants to show you a task or tool that you've already seen, don't tell them that you've already seen it. Let them show it to you again. More than likely, you'll get information and understanding from that second rep that you might not have had the first time. You also won't alienate senior members who are taking the initiative and caring enough to show you the job.
I think that's a great one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like we've all had that moment where that's come up.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when they realize that you did know about it, they're like, why didn't you tell me? It's like, dude, because you were showing me.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with getting refreshed on it anyway.
You might have used this in a completely different way that person used it and have like a totally different idea. Like, why wouldn't you? But I like that one a lot.
Because the second you say no, sorry to cut you off, but the second you say no, I already seen it. It's like, all right, that guy's like, fuck this guy.
Right.
He doesn't care, and and he's not gonna. He's gonna be all right. This fucking guy knows everything. I'm not gonna step up and try to show him anything anymore. And that's it. You just lost him. So good luck. Hope you better know your shit. Because
if anything, it's an intro to spark a conversation in a different area. You might hear, some kind of story or something that, might provoke some thought about how you would approach something later on. It's like we all know how to pick up a Sawzall and pull the trigger and run the blade on glass and metal and whatever, right? It's fine. Someone can pick it up and show you, and they can, walk it over and say, hey, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've also cut these out too, and it works really well. So you just never know. You know what I mean?
And then it's like, all right. And then if you are that person, no, I already saw that. It's like, okay, great. I hope we get a call today. And when you fuck that up, I can't wait to laugh in your face.
I did it in Academy 5 years ago. I'm good.
But I also think it goes the other way too. Like, just because someone's new, if they also have like, hey, like I use this way, like oftentimes they get dismissed, and it kind of goes both ways. Like, you as a new member need to build the trust, but you as a senior member also need to build trust with the new member so that they are willing to follow you. And that's one of those things that goes both way. Like, hey, you don't know my experience, I don't know your experience. So, you get a new person that's like, hey, I actually did use this on a call this way, and it worked really well. Like, okay, going back to episode 1 where you were doing some training and your lieutenant came down, was like, oh, how you doing that? Okay, sweet, like this, great.
Show everybody how it goes.
Builds trust both ways.
I think that comes down to creating a culture that ultimately the mission comes first, and it doesn't matter who has the best particular knowledge for that skill set, whether that's a senior man or maybe a kid that came from the military that's like really experienced or something. Or, I'll use us as an example. Like, I was on maybe for 6 months prior to you getting on, and you were new, but you had 8 years of experience somewhere else.
So I sat and scrubbed the walls.
Yeah, so I immediately was like, all right, pal. Yeah, I don't really care what you have to say. I've been on for 6 months. You're brand new. Soft bristle the walls now. But yeah, no, I think that's you have to create a culture and a climate, whether that's in your department or in your firehouse, that puts the mission first, and then everything can be backwards planned off of that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
how do
100%.
we, whether that's a new kid that maybe, he comes from the trades and, is a master plumber, a carpenter, like came from, we have a guy in our job that, Bob McFlarthy, that used to work in fire alarm control panels. You know what I mean? He's a subject matter expert in, how panels are built, how they trigger, how they trip. So it might not be the guy with 25 years on the job that's a subject matter expert. It might be someone that's, been on the job for 2 months, but has like this niche subject that they're really good with.
And again, just kind of bringing that back to the podcast, if you don't facilitate conversation, you're never going to know that.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't talk to those people and those people don't talk to you, you're never going to know that. So.
Yeah. So I'll give one more, and then we can all jump into our our personal thoughts. But I thought this one was good as well. It said, view yourself. This is brief, but I thought it was also very good. View yourself as a student of the fire service for your whole career, regardless of rank. Find a mentor and always have one. Always keep a positive attitude and realize that is the only thing that is in your complete control.
I bet I know who sent you that one.
That's actually a text from my mom this morning. I told her I was feeling a little down. She always sends me nice quotes.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, that's my mother. What
Beautiful.
a lady. Yeah.
I think finding your own mentor is big too, because everybody has, in the fire service, you have like the type of firefighter you aspire to be. Like, some guys want to be phenomenal, like pump operators. Some guys want to be rescue guys. Some guys want to be a truckie their whole career, and want to do that. So finding you can learn from everybody, but finding that mentor that takes you in the direction that you're looking to go in the fires, just like you would in any other job, finding that mentor is huge.
Yeah. I think if I had to give, so I guess we'll go around,
Sure.
with our one piece. If I had to give one piece of advice, I would say, obviously, it's a cliche. It's okay to be in the job. Like, I want members to love the job and be passionate about firefighting and want to be as good as they can possibly be, and understand that not everyone is going to feel the same way. So seek out people that are as passionate and care as much as you do. So that's literally, for me, that's this show. Like, I'm seeking out guys that give a shit and want to grow and become better firefighters, better paramedics. And that it's job in specific. Like, whatever organization you belong to, you should want to be the best you can possibly be within that role. So I would say, seek out people that care, seek out people that are positive, and make the job as best as it can possibly be. And it's okay to love what you do, and you should.
Yeah.
So that's mine.
Mine would be humble. I think that's for every rank, age, everything. Come in the job being humble. Don't as you said, come in like you know it all, even if you have that experience, and then be humble enough to know when you need help, know when you need to improve on things. And for, we talk about the new guys coming on, but I also think it's hugely important for the people that are already there when they deal with these new guys, because yes, if you're the senior man or you've been on a while, do the people that coming on need to kind of earn respect? Like, I'm a big believer that I always give respect initially, but it's up to you whether I keep that for you. If I give you respect and then you shit on me, that's on you. So respect is earned, but just an example is coming on to our job was very different than coming on to the first job I was in. And
was it me?
it was a little bit you. No, but and I'm not saying that the way they came onto the first job was bad. I think it's just a difference in cultures. Coming onto the first job was that, hey, sit down, shut up. Your job is easy for the first year. It's just to do what you're told, which is not wrong. Like, I completely agree with that. But when I came on to our job now, everybody I talked to, the first thing they said to me was, hey, welcome to the job. Hey, welcome to the job. And immediately that was like a guard, let my guard down a little bit. You know what I mean? Not like in that new guy, like whatever, but it just kind of like, I was like, oh, okay. Like these people are going to take care of me. Like the first thing they're doing is saying welcome, then like shut your mouth. But first thing was welcome. And I think that, I don't know, to me, that was kind of that like humility, like, hey, this is a great job. Like, yeah, you're new, but like, we're glad you're here kind of thing.
Hey, nice to meet you. Shut your fucking mouth.
Shut your mouth, but it is nice to meet you. And so anyway, long story short, humility, I think, would be the thing, my advice.
Yeah, I guess I would build off of that too. Like, it kind of comes down to like, you kind of going to check your ego a little bit too. Like you're saying, guys with different experience coming on the job, different points in their lives, what their background might be. And it's like, that's great, but at the same time, sorry, you're bottom of the totem pole again. Like you got to kind of be willing to check that a little bit, and humble yourself and just kind of take it in from the guys around you. Know your place. You might want to do all the bitch work every day, but guess what? You got to kind of earn your stripes, right? So, and that can be subjective to your history, your age, and everybody gets on the job different times, and it might be odd for somebody, especially later in their life, to maybe getting on the job late, to have someone much younger than them trying to school them on something as simple as the morning chores. Might not go over very well, but guess what? Everyone else before you did it, so you got to kind of just bite the bullet and do it too. Guys just want to see it, and it is a team effort. Like it shouldn't be one person doing everything. It shouldn't be that like that. But chip in, do your part, step up. Do something. If you see a senior, like I'm big on, like if a senior guy on a call, any type of call, is going to do something. If it's not something super technical, it's like, why? I'm the junior guy. Why am I not doing that? Hey, let me take care of that. You shouldn't be doing that in my eyes. That's me. So those are the kind of things I look for. Like when someone's coming on, how eager are you to step in and just kind of do it. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
I guess I would say that some of the things, Will, that you're talking about, I'm going to be honest. I guess I see some people who are humble, but I think when I got into the fire service, I was told right off the bat, you're stepping into it, man, with a bunch of A personalities. You're going to find a lot of alphas. And so it wasn't that I found a lot of humility and humble people as much as I found, and I think this, I guess, maybe coincides with what you're saying about like being humble. And I think it's more for me on my side is I don't really care if somebody's humble in a sense, but I think they need to be coachable, and that's huge. So
yeah, absolutely.
You might, when you know exactly, or you think you know exactly what you're doing, and then someone takes you aside to show you it anyways, I don't know if it's being humble as much as it's just being coachable. And I learned this early out of the fire service. I just saw guys doing exactly what the person in front of them told them to do. Coaches at like camps and, stuff like that early on in football. And they would take interesting guys who would just do exactly what they said. Didn't matter. It's just like, this guy's coachable. Let's work with this guy. And I'm like, how come they didn't pick me? It's like, I don't know. I guess I wasn't that coachable at that time. Right. I remember going back to the football field though, and when my coach was like, "Hey, run through that wall," I was like, "Okay, coach." And that's and I use that terminology in the fire service all the time, especially with some of our senior guys who like, listen, I know these guys, they want us to get this experience, right? And I want them to point me in the right direction because they've done some of this stuff and they've seen it done, which is important. And so they've seen the success of it. So I'm like, this guy doesn't want to run through the brick wall, but that's my job. And that's what I want to do because I want to get that experience because it's going to be incumbent upon me to pass that forward later on when, listen, we're only 4 or 5 years in the job. I know you've been on longer, some stuff like that, but, I still need to go through and do all that stuff. So, it's incumbent upon them to then give it to me and then me to the next guy. So for me, it's to be coachable and to run through that wall still. That's what I want to do. That wasn't what I was going to say. That's not my answer. I wasn't disagreeing with you. I was just saying maybe this is the way that I interpreted some of that.
I was just thinking that I think most of what we said is similar with different words, like checking your ego, be coachable, be humble. Yeah. And I think like too much of any of them is annoying, right? Like
which leads me to my point, but continue.
Yeah, too much of any of them is annoying, so having a little bit of all of them is probably like the way to go.
Yeah. So when I got on, I actually had a really funny interaction with the psychologist. I don't remember his name. I wish I did so I could give him a shout out and be like, "Look at me now."
You said I wouldn't be shit.
But I gave, and it's a typical interview. You open the door and they'll come right in. So there was a couple things that I said, and I was like, "Shit, shouldn't have said that." So he's asking me more questions, and I'm like, "That's all I got to say about that," But it was like, he told me, he was like, you have a very busy life and a busy like mind and personality, and I can tell that you like to. Basically he told me like I'm my brain's moving fast, right? And I'm just like, yeah, but this is what I want to do. And he's like, well, he went as far to tell me, he's like, just so you know, no one's ever been, only one person has only been hired that I didn't recommend. And I walked out of there and I was like,
wow.
I was like, is this guy? So whatever. The chief, so it's so funny. I missed the phone call and the chief leaves me a message. He goes, hey, John, I had a very interesting. Well, I got the results back from the psych doctor. Anyways, give me a call back, and I was like, oh no. It turned out the guy, he highly recommended me or whatever. It was like, me and him went back and forth some banter. He thought I was a good candidate, but it was just funny because of the conversation that we had. Which brings me to my point, and another good piece of advice from my first lieutenant. And because when I first got on, I was like trying to be all these things. I'm running in, I'm like, early, good attitude, be coachable, work hard, put in the effort, do my chores, be good in the ambulance, learn everything about the engine, the ladder, out there, slamming cabinets. It was like, it was a really funny story. I saw like a whole pallet of Speedy Dry, and then there was a barrel. And I'm like, I'm just going to put it all in the barrel, not thinking. So they came down, they're like, hey, what'd you do with all the Speedy Dry? I'm like, put it in the barrel. And they're like, what'd you do that for? I'm like, because that's the Speedy Dry barrel. They're like, what if we have like a hazmat call and we need 10 bags of Speedy Dry? And I was like, shit.
Taking this barrel.
So they're like, dude, will you just sit down? Which is when the piece of advice came to me. My lieutenant came to me. He's like, listen. He was like, I got a good piece of advice. Again, an older member, it was incumbent upon him to lead this guy into the future. And he gave him this piece of advice. It's like, you can come here, you can slam cabinets, you can do everything every day. And you can do that until you're blue in the face. But there's also got to be time where you can sit back, digest some things, read a book, because in this job you have to find balance too. And so you can't be full throttle down all the time. You have to find time to come up, and whatever, be able to sit around and bullshit with the guys, laugh with the guys. It can't all be serious business all the time, and you can't go 100 miles an hour, which I found out because I wanted to go 100 miles an hour. Every time I went 100 miles an hour, it's like, either you get hurt or you miss something. And so really finding that balance with like everything.
Yeah.
Even just getting on and off the truck. You know what I mean? It's like every time, I was like jumping up and down off the truck, and it was just like finally I was like,
yeah, your knees are gonna.
So I'm like,
be hurting.
let me just lower myself off this truck nice and slow, take my time so I can actually get into the call that I'm going to, as opposed to, because we've had it, and you've heard all the stories, guys getting off the truck, twist their ankle, wrench their knee, whatever. So it's like I think about things like that, and it's like, all right, let's slow down and think about this. So that was the best piece of advice I got. It's just balance, being able to sit back, relax, take things in, and digest all the information that we're getting, because we're getting a lot of information, especially because it's not just the fire service anymore. We're doing EMS, so you have to be a professional in two worlds, and that's difficult.
Yeah. I think balance is huge in our job.
Yeah.
And you brought up a really good point. I think it's important. You have to be technically competent, or at least working towards being technically competent, but you also have to work on your interpersonal skills, and that like comes down to like eating dinner with the guys. Like, guys are going to appreciate they're out there like slamming cabinets and all these things, like working towards being incredibly technically competent. They also want to know you as an individual and want you to be like, there's two parts of being a good teammate. One is being good at your specific role, and the other is being like a good member
Part
of the team.
actual team.
Like bringing like a good like funny dynamic, or just laughing and having fun. Because like people don't want someone that's just like a robot all the time. That's like, oh, on calls, this guy's fucking phenomenal, and then we get back to the firehouse, he just sits there and reads a manual.
Or just
guys want to be able to like laugh and fucking joke.
Yeah. Or the guys. I mean, the guys you talk about, the ones that spend all day in their room, like they eat in their room, they just go, they don't sit and talk. And
with that said, though, like even like the robots, right? The guys who are like, there is a place for that, and you can't. People are built however they're built, and it's like you can try to, and that's for leadership to try to extract more out of people. You know what I mean? Like like in particular, my captain, he talks about all the time. He's like, I know I have to figure out how to get what I want out of people from this job, like how to get them to engage or to do the things that we need to do. And it's different because everybody's different, so you have to learn how to like work personalities. And I don't mean like manipulate, but everybody responds to things differently, so you have to figure out like what makes people tick. 100%. So like those robots and those people, it's just, it's like those people come out of their shell and get rounded off eventually. You know what I mean? So there's a place for that. You know what I mean? There's certainly a place for that.
The leadership has to pull it out, but you also have to make an effort if you know you're that person, because the job is more than just doing your job. It's like, we joke about the fire family. You know what I mean? Right. You want to be a part of that. So
yeah.
When you were talking about the psych doctor, I immediately thought of like Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
When he goes to like the Shady Acres Mental Hospital, and he's like, "Put me in, coach. One more chance." It's just like, I don't know why. But I feel you guys want to dive into the next.
Let's go. I think that was a good conversation.
No, I think it was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was all right.
So what's cool about this size up this week? Obviously, we try to be as user driven as possible. So this is actually user submitted content. So for this size up, I'll bring it up here. So this was submitted by a member from out west. So we'll do our normal kind of round robin, and then I'll read the comments that we got on the socials.
Can you describe what we're looking at?
Yes. So as I said, user submitted. So do you want me to do like a description as far as like my interpretation?
No, just like a description of the photo for the guys that are audio and not visual.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a 2.5-story wood frame structure with a significantly elevated deck off the back. That was about 12 feet per the description. The deck is fully involved, and it was transitioning into the house and in a lateral sense across the house as well. And this was from an individual that was cooking on his gas grill on the porch that left it unattended. So that's why, air fryers, Matty. You don't see a lot of
You're not going to win me over with that argument.
yeah. So
I'm gonna tell you, I tried an air fryer for the first time the other day, and it's pretty legit, man.
No, they're awesome, but listen, if your go-to for cooking a steak is an air fryer,
no,
then
it was a dark time.
I was talking about crinkly fries. But
yeah, crinkly. Yeah, Barry's talking about steak. So
Yeah. So for the
It doesn't make any
I
fucking
don't
sense.
know anything about
I
You're
that.
know
trying
this.
to take
I
a
know
food item and justify eating
I
it.
know
Well, I
this.
didn't deep fry the French fries.
Yeah.
It's still
I
It's
know,
like-
you
it's
don't
like-
think I know? I have to live with the guilt every day.
it's like people that go to Whole Foods and order pizza, and they're like, "Yeah, but it's Whole Foods." Like, bro,
It
it's
was
still
a mistake. My
still
wife
pizza.
made. I was not home yet. Matt and another friend were coming over. They told me it was a certain time. They showed up 20 minutes earlier. I was at the Packy, and my wife had to scramble. So I didn't authorize the air fried steak. It was a casualty
Whatever.
of war.
FYI, our global listeners don't know what the Packy is.
Oh, so for the multi as we are a multinational media conglomerate,
or just non-Boston.
the Packy is a northeast, maybe potentially just Massachusetts, or maybe potentially just Metro Boston. Term for the alcohol store or the liquor store.
alcohol store.
I don't know. They have alcohol. Sometimes beer, wine, snacks.
It's a liquor store.
Liquor store. It's a
Package
liquor
store,
Very
Packy.
long-winded answer short.
Yeah, it's a liquor store.
It's a liquor store.
All right. So, anyways, for the non-video based listeners, we have a 2.5-story wood frame structure. We have a deck that is about 12 feet off the ground off the backside with a significant slope in the backyard, and the deck is well involved. This was submitted by a JobTlks group member. So join the group, and you can submit us content. We'll put it on your show, and you can be totally famous. So we'll kind of dive through it. So I guess we could do, what is it, counterclockwise? I guess John, do you want to go first? So this was outside. I'll preface this for the member that submitted it. This was outside of their hydrant district. So they had some difficulties there, but they made it happen. But I guess we can go this way this time. I don't know if that works.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You're the teacher.
All right. So I guess I'll just show up from an engine standpoint. We've talked about it before. I could be on an engine, a ladder, or an ambulance in this particular position. But if we get this call in, we're that's gonna go out as a box 7 or a box 5. When we get on scene, car 5 always beats us there. Police always beat us there. We usually know it's you always know it's a structure fire, right? Multiple calls, you get police to confirm. You get all these indicators. So we'll get on scene. They'll call the working fire, and so from there, obviously, this is a backyard, so you're gonna see a plume of smoke over it. But we're gonna C5's gonna get out. He's gonna do his 360, and I'm sure that he's probably gonna ask us to either one, it kind of looks like big fire from here. And recently we've kind of started talking about deploying our 2.5 blitz gun, which I think in this case, it seems like there's a lot of fire. So, get a lot of water with a 2.5, but it wouldn't be wrong to very quickly stretch 1 3/4 behind. I depending on how long it takes for C5 to get there. If the engine gets there simultaneously, I think they're just gonna end up pulling one of the cross lays off. And from there, if it looks like nighttime, so there's probably occupants. So, we're gonna have the ladder crew laddering that, probably with the aerial. Obviously, I guess it just depends where it is, but
Yes, this was about I think it was past midnight.
yeah. So the aerial the aerial crew's going up there. There's probably gonna be some ventilation involved because that looks like it's involved in the roof line and everything else now.
This guy was grilling on his deck
Well, I think
after
there was
midnight.
a party involved.
I was going to say, this
okay.
is an
Late
insurance
night
job.
snack.
This was almost my house about 10 years ago, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah, don't cook bacon on the grill. I
Oh,
had it
bacon.
on tinfoil,
Yeah,
but then when I went to check it, I poked a hole in it,
Yeah.
came back out, fully involved. But anyways, so then, the ambulance crew is probably either backing up that line or they're going to go in and do a search. They're going to do a primary search. And, I don't know. I know it looks like big fire, but this looks like one that, you could probably hit mostly from the outside and kind of be done with it. But I guess that's my perspective.
Yeah, I guess my take, with my minimal experience, correct me if I'm wrong, but, so we know it started on the deck, gas grill fire. So I guess looking at this, my two concerns would be obviously time of night. So is someone home in that other unit? Let's make sure they're out. And then ideally you want to attack that deck pretty aggressively. I don't know what your access is from the backside here. It looks like it's some type of embankment, or if that goes off into like a drainage area. And you said water was an issue, so you kind of want to use it sparingly, right? So I would say do your best to try to hit that deck and try to contain it to that area, and then obviously have a crew going through the front, and hopefully it didn't spread too much into the interior of the house. But obviously you want to do a search, make sure, if they're home, the guy let it go, hopefully they were smart enough to get everybody out of the house, right? But maybe they said fuck their neighbors, who knows? But yeah, I guess that would be my big take on that is, does it just look bad because there's some good content on the deck, or did it spread? That's kind of my take. So
I think it's actually it looks like a single family. I think that's just
you
like
think that's a single?
So, yeah, I think that's just their own private porch off maybe like a master bedroom over the garage.
Oh,
so I initially was thinking like those.
I'm thinking it's a townhouse style,
like a row house,
condos or something. Yeah. Okay. So fuck me then. I don't know. But I can't even afford one deck, and this person's got two.
Yeah.
I'd offer 500, and but with the fire out, that's my only contingency.
They still wouldn't
That's all I
take it
can
in this
afford these
market.
days. Yeah.
I think you're right. Initially, when I looked at this, I thought it was one of those kind of development condos, but I think that the two decks are completely different size, and the garage kind of gives the idea that it's probably a single family.
Oh.
And then, so for me, just not even talking about staffing, but I would say an issue you're going to have is getting around the back with that fence there. So that's going to be an obstacle. So you're going to have to stretch over it. Hopefully there's just a gate that you can go through pretty easily, but you're going to end up either having to go all the way around it, or somebody's going to have to go all the way around it to get that hose, or you're going to have to jump or knock it down or do something. So that's a decent obstacle. I disagree with you guys a little bit. I think this is well involved. I think this was going for a while before this photo was taken, and the thing that leads me there is the fires actually burned down on that BC corner all the way to the ground, and there's a really huge fire load in that BC corner. So I would be pretty concerned that this is in the attic space already before we got there, and then with water problems, I would say that this is definitely going to be an interior structure fire as well as battling the porches. So if I had the manpower, 2.5 to the backyard, I'd start washing that down aggressively, and then I would get 1 3/4 inches into the house, starting with that second floor, headed for the BC corner, and follow-up line, or at least a crew investigating the attic/cock-off space.
I think it's pretty well said, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think the big things from an engine company, some of which you've already highlighted, is the kind of the potential. Obviously we can't see the Bravo side, but you said heavy involvement on the Bravo Charlie corner, and I agree it's probably well involved pushing into the occupied space, but is trying to determine the best access for those hose lines to the backyard. So whether that's actually going around, like kind of that Bravo Charlie corner and wrapping around, or you're going to come from the Delta side and like you have the obstacle here. So whether you're a Gazelle and you just hop over, or you just cut it and they can get a new chain link fence. Either way, you have an obstacle there that you kind of need to figure out in quick succession. Like, hey, we need to get a line to the backyard. I would be hesitant to use a crosslay with this just because I have a perpetual fear of coming up short. So I would probably grab the horseshoe or the 2.5.
Tell us more, Barry.
Yeah. I would go with the 2.5, and you have plenty of length, and then you can communicate how much you're taking. But
getting the 2.5 back there, you can dry stretch it.
Yes.
So you really only need to commit one guy to that. So you can.
Oh yeah, for anything exterior.
You can just commit one guy to that. I think also this is a fire that shows a big importance of doing a 360. So depending on how you pulled up to this, being night, this guy's got a killer flash on his camera because that whole house is lit up. But like looking at that roof line, it looks like a fairly peaked roof, and it's all black on the alpha side of that fire. So if you pulled up, like say this was like a dead end road or a cul-de-sac, and you pulled straight into this, it's going to look like a lot of smoke, but you might not actually see how much fire is in the back unless you walk around to the back side of this.
Yeah. And
again, like you can't tell what's over there. Obviously, there's some good grade to this lawn. This guy's lawn is not as nice as the last one, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, have to make the decision on which side you're going to go around on.
And I think that this brings up a good point. And I don't know if you guys do something similar. We don't always do a good 360, especially like for the first due engine company. And this is where I think it like highlights the importance, because obviously, if, you know, we don't have a lot of structures like this per se, where there's, you know, you're showing up and it's like a triple decker and you can clearly see, you know, where it's emanating from. But even taking the time to do like, hey, like maybe it's worth your while to do a quick 360 so you can at least understand like the extent and involvement, because in the front it's going to look one way, where you're like, oh, you know, this is an interior structure fire and we're going to take an inch and 3/4 through the front door. And then if you had taken the 30 seconds, just, hey, have someone run around back real quick, and you realize that like the extreme volume of fire off the back.
So who is responsible for that though in your, you know, like when you guys strike a working fire, and let's say it is for a building that you can 360, who's responsible for that on your end?
Usually the division chief and the aide are off pretty quick.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
for
what
your
our
first
car
due
would do.
officer is all responsible, but the thing is that our division chiefs usually get there so
Yeah.
quickly that
Yes.
the first due officer has a chance to give a quick size up and then start working with
Right.
the division chiefs kind of coming in quickly behind them.
I was gonna say, because I would be shocked if someone, you know, any of the ranked guys showed up and didn't do a 360. I'd be shocked. You know what I mean?
And if you were coming down the street from the like Delta side of this house or even the Bravo side, you're probably gonna see all of this coming in. But if you, like I said, if that street like came straight into that house, like a cul-de-sac or something,
Yeah.
you might not see any of that without walking around to the backside. And the thing with going through the front door first is that line's not going to the attic, and so you might push, you know, put the fire out that's on that second floor. But I almost guarantee with the head start this thing clearly has that there's going to be fire in the attic.
You can see that BC corner roof line's burning away.
Yeah, you can see smoke
You can
coming out of
see
the
it,
eaves
yeah.
there, so it's probably already in the attic.
Well, the good news is you can see the fire, right?
Yeah.
See, you know it could be spreading, but you
Yeah.
kind of know where it is too, so you can chase from there. It's not like you showing up there and there's smoke, and now you got to go in and find it, right?
Try to find
Which
it,
is
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So
I think you bring in a good point, because it's not to say that we don't do 360s. I think, you know, obviously we have the luxury that the car is usually there pretty quick, just because it's, you know,
It's an SUV.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
same.
6.3 square miles, so there's usually a car there pretty quick. Obviously the expectation is you guys we do a good initial size up, but I think that's one of the things that you don't realize until you're removed from your own perspective, is like how quickly those resources are usually there, to
Right.
where that specific task can be delegated quickly. And companies can focus on their individual company level tasks. So it's not to say that we don't do it. I think that's a good point.
So another just quick is you brought up the blitz gun, and so like with our staffing, I like the blitz gun personally, like a little bit further in, or if you just have a exposure issue or something. But on departments with limited staffing, that thing could be great as an initial, because you can bring it out, charge it, and just leave it there.
Yeah.
And then you still have, especially, you know, talking about some departments that have several minutes between their first and second arriving companies, you know, you could set that, start knocking down, washing down that fire,
Yeah.
and then be able to like go. So that's good with us. I like just pulling the 2.5 because it's quicker. There's actually a pretty good article in Fire Engineering about like taking the 2.5 or taking the deck gun, and kind of like, because the blitz gun or not the deck gun, the blitz gun is becoming kind of a standard
Yeah.
piece of equipment
Right.
across the fire service. And the argument is, if you have the manpower, basically it's a lot faster to just deploy a hand line than it is to deploy a blitz gun. But in departments with less staffing,
I guess, you know, we haven't dissected that.
I can send you the.
I actually, I'd
Fire
like
rate.
to look at that, because we have a few different, you know, one of our one of the like cruxes of our job is that we've upgraded along the way, and sometimes it hasn't been so much of an upgrade as far as like pieces of apparatus that we get. You know, there's always the ups and downs, and you know, you gotta take it as it comes. But one of our engines has like electronic lights where, you know, everything's on a remote control, and then as well we have the deck gun that's all
Right.
remote control.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
And it is cool, except that one of the groups took it upon themselves to see how fast they could get up and deploy a gun, like deploy a deck gun off of one of our other pieces, and it was like a full 30 to 40 seconds faster, which obviously in
Really?
the spirit of firefighting is a long time. So I would be I guess like intrigued to see a hand line deployed with a blitz gun or whatever, 2.5. I mean, I know it's fast, but I mean, all I'm doing is climbing up the back of the truck and lifting it and pointing. I mean, it just seems like
So are you talking about a blitz gun or a deck gun?
I thought you said a deck gun.
I did. I misspoke.
Compared to
Yeah, initially
a
you
2.5.
said blitz gun.
No. So is it a deck gun versus a 2.5 hand line?
No, so this might be the confusion.
Okay,
so
all right, I
for
might be
us,
confused.
a blitz gun
It's easy.
is a specific piece of equipment.
Right.
It
We have the
feeds
2.5.
It feeds on a 2.5, but it's mobile. It's a monitor.
Yes, we have the same thing.
Okay, so that's what I thought you were when you initially said you mentioned blitz gun. So I thought you were talking about bringing a blitz gun to the back there.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. So I'm saying a 2.5 is quicker deployed than a blitz gun, not necessarily.
Oh,
a
okay.
deck gun.
All right. So I could imagine that. I must have misheard, or I don't know.
So I'm gonna pick one, which I think is a good caveat off of what you guys are saying, because it involves their department also using blitz guns.
Sweet.
All right, so I'll pick one from the bunch, and I think this kind of caveats well. So they said automatic second alarm, first due company stretching the blitz gun to the rear, directing onto the main seat of the fire porch of origin. Second due companies stretching 1 3/4 hand line onto the back, with primary fire search in front. If it's in a hydrant district, mutual aid piece can tag the hydrant and forward lay to the scene. If it's out of the hydrant district, tanker to scene to nurse the attack engine, then that should be enough water. But if there's good extension, we potentially would need additional alarms to get draft sites set up. So I think that kind of highlights the changing culture of where, hey, like blitz gun is more.
Were they saying that
Yeah, you can't waste
did
it.
it seem like they were committing that first due crew to the blitz gun?
Yeah, it says first due company stretching the blitz gun to the rear, directing that on the main seat of the fire.
It's
And that's where I was going. I'm sorry. That's where I was going with. I mean, if the chief gets there, or if car 5 gets there, most likely that's what I was saying. I think if he gets around back and he sees big fire, he's just gonna right off the rip tell us on arrival. He's gonna tell us grab the blitz gun, But I think it would be different. And I said if the engine showed up first, I think they might just be. It might just be so automatic for them to grab one of the crosslays and run it around back.
Yeah,
But that's where I was going with that.
So for me in that exact scenario is like if you were dedicating the crew to that anyway, I would just initially pull that 2.5 because it's already connected to a nozzle. The literal only thing you have to do is charge it, and then you can have that second person get the blitz gun and make that transition once you knock the bulk of the
I
fire
gotcha.
down.
All right, yeah.
I wouldn't. For me, I don't like the idea because it's gonna take longer, no matter what, to set a blitz gun up than it is to just pull a 2.5 with the nozzle on it and wash the porches down. So if you're already committing that crew, so for me the idea is what I was saying is like if you had one crew and that was going to be your only crew there for 10 minutes, then I might take that blitz gun, set it, forget it, and
Sure.
then go back.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think there's definitely versatility as far as if you're talking like in a limited staffing concept, to where like nothing ever, as we've discussed before, nothing ever goes like perfectly as planned. But if you know that you have like one, maybe two companies coming, and then the rest is mutual aid, there's the benefit of kind of like the set it and forget it of a blitz gun, where realistically, like if you're running 200 feet to the backyard, you grab that blitz gun like 200 feet to 2.5, set it up. The pump operator is going to, and then just you're good to go, and then you can focus on something else. But the byproduct of that is like you have to make that decision off the rip of like where you gain after that setup. You gain a company that can now focus on something else, but the byproduct is you're not pulling that initial cross lay or that initial attack line off. But I think it does make sense, especially in like a limited staffing concept world.
Yeah. So. I think it's another example where neither is wrong.
Yeah.
It's kind of just personal preference and whatever you train on and do repetitiously. Like that word?
Yeah.
Is that a real word? Repetitiously?
Because
I have Google.
You could do something like if you have like a competent crew, even with a 3-man crew, it doesn't really take two people realistically to set up a blitz gun. If you're dragging like 200 feet to 2.5, just have one person, hey, grab 200 feet to 2.5 in the blitz gun, get it set up. The other person could be pulling that initial attack line cross lay. By the time the blitz gun's set up, that other guy's got his mask on, the initial attack line is set up, the other guy's probably, hopefully, available to back him up on that line. But, that's operating in a perfect world.
Right.
We don't live in a perfect world.
Yeah,
so.
and then but again with they said there's out of hydrant district, right? So
Yeah.
now you got a blitz gun running.
Yeah, you can't
at
just leave a blitz
full
gun running.
blast.
That's
Yeah.
3 minutes
You're-
and done. And if you're not,
Yeah,
you're not knocking the fire down, then you're wasting.
And then you have no water to go inside.
Right.
Or
So-
you get you get a crew inside not thinking of
have
that
water.
initially, and then all of a sudden you're
Have
like,
to
oh
back
shit.
out.
Yeah. Sorry, repetitiously is the adverb form of repetitious, just so you know.
I completely forgot you had
I
a
didn't-
mustache on.
I didn't doubt you with that mustache. I was
You shouldn't.
just making you work.
That was good. I liked it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of wraps us up then, huh? For
Yeah.
this
No,
one?
I think that's a good place to
place to end it.
Our typical goodbye message.
Sure. So that does it for this week. Obviously, we hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that you will
Does it
come
do
back.
it for this week?
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
Did
Barry.
Barry not prepare?
Barry,
No,
did
I
you
did-
forget something?
I did prepare, but I did forget to bring it to the group.
If you guys haven't figured it out, Barry is kind of a piece of shit.
I am. Yeah, I don't think anyone's really going to argue that.
Large piece of crap.
Yeah.
Large.
My number one piece of advice for young members is just don't be me.
Solid.
But all right, so here's my question of the day. I have a tie break here. For the rest of your life,
Oh.
you can only choose, and this is grade A. This isn't like Taco Bell. You can only choose premium quality tacos or premium quality high caliber burritos. But you can't have both. You have to make a choice.
My
Tacos crunchy all day. Got to have the crunch. There's no crunch in burritos. End of story.
oh man, that's a totally separate.
I know this is your kryptonite.
That's a totally separate discussion.
So you're taking tacos for life?
Crunchy tacos.
Is the dumbest. Oh my god.
We'll get into that now.
I feel like the only reason crunchy tacos were invented is because there wasn't technology to make tortillas yet.
You're at a 12. I know you're passionate.
No,
about
because they're tortillas first, and then they harden.
No,
after.
no, I disagree. I know that that's probably actually legitimate, but I disagree.
I live
There's
next
so-
to a Mexican
Let
restaurant.
Matthew speak.
It's tacos all day.
Really?
Over burritos.
Yeah.
Yeah, tacos. Tacos are versatile.
Here's the thing, Barry.
Now you can go.
I would have agreed with you.
I haven't even given my opinion.
5 days ago. Oh, I assume. I mean, we ate a lot of burritos together. I don't know your opinion. I assumed you were a burrito guy. I would have agreed with that 5 days ago, but I just had the stomach bug after eating burritos, and the idea of a burrito right now honestly makes me pretty sick. So I'm gonna have to go with tacos, but soft tacos only, because hard taco shells literally make no sense.
So
You can't put anything in them unless you have like a special spoon. Like, go to Taco Bell. They
The
literally
debate,
have
the
a
debate has
special-
shifted. The debate has shifted.
All right.
I'm,
well, I don't.
I'm bringing that one up.
I don't
for my
think.
next
I
one.
don't think you can. I don't think you can view it through one bad experience because you've had thousands of burritos. I would
No,
argue
you don't
that-
understand. Like, the idea of eating a burrito right now makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, but you can.
But you're coming at it from an emotional perspective and not objectively.
Yeah, but for the rest of my life in this moment,
Yeah.
I would have to
Alright,
choose
fine.
tacos.
I would go burrito
I knew it. See? I knew it.
because because you
loser.
can't just look at the physical content. You have to look at the exterior operations going on while you're eating the burrito.
Can't wait to hear this.
Especially in the fire service, burritos are portable. Like, I could mow my lawn technically and eat a burrito. I can enjoy it anywhere. Why are you?
As if a taco isn't.
You can't do that with a taco?
No, because tacos, like, you have to, and then you essentially have to fold the end of a taco, and you're making it a pseudo burrito anyway, just to keep the contents from spilling out.
Have you ever
Not
been
hard
to Chipotle?
tacos.
Yeah.
You need 2 fucking hands. As soon as you take one bite, it spills all over the place.
Well, you got to keep it.
Then
in
the
foil.
wrap-
that's-
You got to
that's-
keep it in
You
foil.
unfoil it?
Yeah.
No.
I don't even get them there because it's a fucking waste of time.
That comes down to employee
They start
competency.
ripping.
Maybe they didn't have good leadership. Maybe
It also goes to not knowing to keep it in the foil. I see people unwrap
Every
Well,
burritos.
yes.
every
I
burrito ends the same way. You get a fucking fork out because half of it's spilled all over the
No.
place.
You know
That-
what? So
that's
does
the
so
best-
does every
but
hard
that's the
taco.
Yeah.
When I have Taco Tuesday night at my house, which we do religiously, and
I've never been invited, but just know I'll never come if they're all hot tacos.
been using venison to cook tacos this year. I'll have like 9 tacos. That's an overstatement. Usually like 5 or 6. But then at the end, you have this taco salad that you eat with foil. It's the best part. It's the best part. It's the
If I wanted
it's like
a
the
salad,
drippings.
I would
It's
make
the
a
best.
salad.
Yeah, well.
Matt, I think the structural integrity issue as far as burritos, I think that comes back to being a new member in the trade of taco build or of burrito building, and they didn't have leadership that was communicating to them, this is how you build a burrito of proper structural integrity that is portable and you can take it places. But it doesn't matter what we think. it matters what Nick thinks.
Well, it does matter what Nick thinks always, but he's not a tiebreaker today.
No, we have
because
3 taco fans.
We have 3 taco fans.
Well, it doesn't matter.
And you said that I was arguing emotionally, so I'm going to give you a
Okay,
counter argument
fine.
that's not emotional. If you make a burrito, you have basically one size, right? I mean, they're like 10-inch versus 8-inch, right? 10-inch versus 8-inch, but you have to fill that burrito and make a burrito. If you're just a little bit hungry, you don't make mini burritos. Those are called tacos. So with tacos, you can have a small meal, you can have a snack, or you can fill yourself up. They're more versatile.
You can have 2 burritos worth of tacos if you're that hungry.
Yep. Or 0.5 burritos
disagree.
worth of tacos.
I respect your guys' opinion, but I disagree. So, Nicholas?
I mean, I'm not mic'd up, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. But, like, what about, like, a breakfast burrito that's relatively small?
You could also make a
Right.
breakfast taco.
I'm sure you could, but, I mean, if size is the way that you're going with it, first of all, there is a large difference between 8 inches and 10 inches, my friend. And second of all, you can have a
That's what she said.
breakfast burrito and a Chipotle burrito and a Taco Bell burrito, all 3 different sizes.
Yeah, but that's what my point is that, like, relatively though, burritos are larger. They're full meals. If you put, let me just say, if you put something in a tortilla this big, it's not a burrito. It's
a taco.
I've never. Okay.
Oh.
I'd send it back.
I think breakfast burrito, I think what do they call that? An alliteration, right? With the 2 B's. Is that the right thing?
Yeah.
Right? It's an alliteration. If they said, oh, come get a breakfast taco, I think people would be like, no,
Yeah,
I'm good.
it's all
It's
advertising.
all advertising.
But I think at the end of the day, like, would you feel safe eating a taco in your car? Absolutely not.
No, especially on a hard
I also
Yeah.
wouldn't eat a burrito
Hard
in
shell's
my
a
car.
disaster.
Have you seen my car? I'll eat it. I don't give a shit.
Hard shell taco is a disaster waiting.
I'm not eating it. Oh, that's not true. I have eaten a lot of Taco Bell in my car. That's
Yeah.
true.
All
But
right.
I have to park because I put like one entire packet of
So
hot
you've
sauce for
had
every
a
bite.
lot of explosive diarrhea in your
No,
car.
man, it
Noted.
doesn't fuck with me until the stomach bug.
All right. Well, being a man of democracy, I am outmanned and outgunned.
All right.
So, what do you think?
Sorry, I couldn't save you.
I
a
think
good question,
that's
though.
No, it's fine.
I would have been we would have had a tie break had I not thrown up burritos.
Again,
4 days
looking
ago.
at it emotionally instead of objectively. But anyway, that's it for the episode. Let's see what you guys have to say, and I hope you'll make the right choice.
It's going to be tacos. There's a fucking day dedicated to tacos. It's Taco Tuesday.
Only because there's no day of the week that starts with B.
Nobody wants to make one
Is
either.
is Taco Tuesday? Wait, is Taco Tuesday the alliterated version of breakfast burrito? And if you admit it, then you have to admit that breakfast burritos really are breakfast tacos, and they just did it for advertising.
Boom.
All right, there you go. So then there is a day dedicated to tacos.
Let us know what you think. Make the right choice.
Yeah. So go to watch this YouTube video and leave a comment on what your favorite is, or what you would prefer to have the rest of your life, or social media, or if it's hate mail, this guy. That does it for real this time.
That does it for real.
For
Thanks
this
for
week's
tuning in.
episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Big thank you to all of our listeners, all of our followers. Every week we continue to have more people that are liking our pages and hopefully watching these podcasts. So huge thank you to all of you, because without you, this literally would not exist. So another huge shout out to our producer and parent burrito eater, Big Dick Nick, and the Wilco Media Group for keeping us on the straight and narrow, helping us make this happen.
All right.
Be sure to check them out on IG and YouTube as well. And as always, you can find us on all the major social medias, and the podcast will be available on all the typical podcast channels. Caveat here, what you might not know yet, and you will, is that you will probably have these episodes available on YouTube for a week or two before they're available on the podcast channels. That's only going to be for the first 1 or 2, because it takes the channels like Spotify a week or 2 to build our feed. So you're going to have these available on YouTube, and then once they build that feed, it'll be same day, but until they build that feed, you might see this one and you might see episode 1 on YouTube without being on those podcast channels. And again, we strive to make this user-driven. We want to talk about the things that you guys are interested in. So reach out to us, let us know, give us some comments, some feedback, some ideas, things, topics you want to talk about, and we will make that happen. Whatever it is you'd like to share, let's keep talking. That does it.
All right. Well, all right.
Now I got my flow. I didn't realize how much pressure it is to